All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Of Like Minds podcast, episode 5. And here we have a really special guest today, a really good friend of mine, a big brother figure to me, Mr. Nico DeJesus. Nico, thank you so much for coming on and just giving us your time today.
Thanks for having me. Proud of you for doing this.
Thank you, thank you. So Nico, just to kind of start, I want to go back to the beginning of your journey and just talking about, for those that don't know, just talking about how you got into dance and how that love first kind of started.
I think like many children and their parents, when they have young children, they try and put them a lot of things to figure out what it is they like to do. I was a very hyper child, so I played numerous sports. I was the one that stuck out was roller hockey. Played a lot of roller hockey, and I was secretly taking dance classes. And one day, my mom told me that I had to choose between dance and roller hockey because it was getting to be too much. Because I would do roller hockey practices and then games on another day, and then at the same time I was going to dance classes, going to catechism, and also too where I wanted to go to high school. My mom told me that either I can go to a strict Catholic high school where I focus on athletics, or I can go to, or she could try and get me into SCPA and dance. So I also, funny story, when I was performing one time at this thing called Bonita Fest in Bonita, my hockey coach and his son, who was on my team, saw me dancing, and he had no idea that I danced. And he went up to my dad and told him, "No wonder Nico never falls." Duh. So anyways, I chose dance, and then that's how I got started taking it more seriously, because it was just getting to be too much for me and my parents, and chose to dance, and they put me in SCPA, and that's in itself was the choice for me to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna take dance to the next level in my
Yeah.
life.
Well, that's amazing. And we'll get into the career that you've created for yourself, which has been amazing. But still kind of tying back to that time, for those of you that are just tuning in or just watching this, what were like the styles that you first got into, like your training consist of in initially?
It was like hip hop. It was my mom put me in a recreational dance class at some rec center somewhere. I don't remember, but I danced to, I did hip hop there. I forgot this, I forgot the song. Was it Candy Coated Raindrop? Was that like I don't remember, but it was some hip. Oh my gosh. I was like little, I had a big t-shirt and a backwards cap. And that was like my first like thing. I danced, and they're like, "Oh, he's actually pretty good." And then I think from there I started going to, I think it was Future Shock next. And then training with Culture Shock, and then I started dancing at Nisha's, and then
That's right.
it was like through Nisha's that I kind of realized that I needed to learn more than just hip hop. So it was like it was hip hop, but then there was a lot more of ballet, California ballet, city ballet, taking theater dance at SCPA. Yeah, it was really just like one thing led to another, and I was like, next thing I know, I'm wearing a dance belt and tights.
Well, so you started with hip hop and then you talked about getting into niches and expanding on more traditional styles. So how old are you at this point?
I think I took my first dance class when I was like 4,
Hmm.
5, and then I mean, like as maybe like 8, 9, 10, around there is when I really started to learn other types of dance styles. Well, really ballet, jazz, and tap.
Mm. And so when you were getting to those styles, like you being 8 to 9 years old and about to go into what was SCPA, the school that we went to together, what was that like being a young male in dance? You are the minority, seen as something pretty feminine, but is actually really strenuous and athletic. What was that like growing up, being in those dance spaces, specifically wearing tights, wearing dance belts? Like, how were you seen by other kids, specifically the other boys in the school? Like, what was that whole thing like?
I mean, it's never going to change. I mean, you even see it nowadays where like even people on the news are giving little boys crap for wanting to dance, and we have to do this whole boys dance too thing. It's a whole thing, but I mean, I think it's getting better, but I mean, back then, I talk like I'm old. I'm like, but like when I was in middle school, like yeah, boys just didn't get it, and dance uh, was something that most boys didn't like to do, and if you did, you were looked at a certain way. Um, I just thought it was cool. I was like, I like dancing. This is fun. This is great. I feel like I'm getting as much as a workout as I would be running laps in PE. Like, and it was like, and I didn't. And at first, it sucked. Like I had to being the only boy in dance classes and being at Nisha's and just like trying to navigate my way through like, okay, I'm the only boy in this dance class, um, but it's okay. Like you're okay. You love to do this. You love to perform. You do this because you love to do this. So it was just a lot of that. It was difficult in the beginning just to like get used to boys making fun of you, getting beat up, eating lunches in bathrooms so people wouldn't beat you up during lunch.
Mm.
But it was, I mean, it was fine though. Like I'm glad I went through that. I was like, you know what, like I'm the only dude in a class full of a bunch of pretty girls. Like, like you guys are the dumb ones, and like it's fine though. And I'm happy I went through it. A lot of those guys in high school that used to pick on me in middle school, in high school they became really good friends of mine, and they actually understood and were like, oh, Nico's actually kind of cool. He dances. That's okay,
That's awesome.
which was kind of nice.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had already like a great head on your shoulders even at a young age, but I'm just interested to see like, being Filipino and being a male and you're kind of, starting to take this a little bit more seriously, what the support system was like at home with your parents in terms of like doing dance and specifically, doing things maybe a little not as masculine or what people would see, even though it's not true. Doing these more traditional styles and getting more invested into that. So what was the support system like at home during this time?
I mean, my parents are Filipino, Asian, grew up in an Asian household, but they were both born in the States. Um, I'm very grateful for their support and for all their guidance throughout everything, because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be where I am today. I mean, it was never once an issue where they were like, why are you dancing? Why are you doing this? Why don't you do something else that will kind of get you a more secure future and like help you out later in life? It was always like, well, what are we going to do to make sure that you get better at your craft? Oh, you need to take voice lessons? Let's put you in voice lessons because that's probably what's important. Oh, you need to oh, Nico, we saw you dancing in the bathroom. Would you by chance want a dance studio? Like, I mean, I'm very blessed that they did that for me. My mom always told me that they did want to have other kids, but she kind of took it as a sign that like, that God wanted her to just like really focus on this one child and do everything possible to make sure that this child, me, becomes something of himself. And so they did everything they could. I mean, yeah, of course, like my dad was at first like, oh, you're not gonna play roller, you're not gonna do sports, you're gonna dance. And at first it took a while, but then like it took a while for him to, well, I didn't take that long actually, but then it went from like for him not understanding why I was dancing to like him getting mad at me for not going to ballet class. Like
Mm,
it changed. Like he was like, he's like, why aren't are you need to go to ballet class? Like I was like, whoa, this is different. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it's just a total shift. But I'm very lucky, very happy that I had parents that really supported me, and they never once were like, why don't you be a nurse? Why don't you be a doctor? Which is very typical in our cultural background.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, very lucky. I was very lucky to have the support system that I had.
Wow. No, that's awesome. And shout out to Auntie Brett and Uncle Leo, Nico's parents, for continuing to be that too, even to this day. Moving on to SCPA. SCPA, you're also one of the OGs. We kind of overlapped a little bit in our middle school, high school. For those of you that don't know, SDSCPA is the Performing Arts School in San Diego. And so you went all 7 years. You went 6th to 12th grade. So, and you did everything. I mean, you did the dance concerts, you did the main stage performances, you did the little performances at lunchtime. I mean, everything. And just, I think talking about, it'd be awesome to hear you shed some light on how going to performing arts school and being exposed to that environment at such a young age and such a diverse amount of people, like how that ultimately affected you in your life and career moving forward.
Um, SCPA, I don't exactly know how it is now, but I mean, when I was there, it was amazing that we had the opportunity to dance. And if you wanted to play in the band, you could play in the band as well. If you wanted to be in the top choir group, you could be in the top singing group, and you could be in the top choir, and you could be in the top dance class. If you wanted to do musical theater, you could do everything there that you wanted at SCPA. And that was amazing for me. Something for me I wish that I had done at SCPA was I wish that I had participated more in musical theater, knowing that that's where I am now. And like, I look back on it and I'm like, crap, I wish I had taken more musical theater classes, and I wish I could have sang more. I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have. But anyways, like SCPA was a great place for me to learn, because I, at a very young age, got into theater dance ensemble, and it was great, not great sucking. It was great. It was great being like, as if like the rookie on a basketball team. Like you're not the best. You're gonna be at the last. You're gonna be the last in the group. You're gonna be the last to eat. You'll be this. You'll be that. And like for me, that was so great for me, because in the professional world, there's a lot of times where you have to do things that you don't want to do, or you feel like you're getting not treated right. And for me, not that I was getting treated poorly in my dance class or anything. No, it was just learning to humble myself, and that for me was just that was really great for me to learn. I have danced with a lot of great people, and I got to work with some great people at SCPA, and I think just being in that atmosphere around a lot of people that were in the arts and doing a lot of different types of arts, that was just great for me. That was really beneficial for me.
Yeah. And I know specifically one of the biggest influences for you, Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson was a presence and a man of great influence. I know he had a huge impact on your life. And so if you can just share with the audience a little bit about, and I know he's one of the biggest influences, at least at SCPA for you. And if there are any more that stand out in this moment, please bring them up as well. But if you can just talk a little bit about Mr. Robinson's impact on you as a person, as a dancer, as a man, anything and everything.
Mr. Robinson still impacts me to this day. I can still hear his voice in the back of my head every day, yelling at me, but in like a loving way. He grew up in Detroit, and not with the best circumstances, but the thing that like I loved about him was that he was a sports guy who started dancing, which when you can combine, if you think about it, dance is just as athletic as someone who plays football. Dance is just as hard as someone who plays basketball. And if you look at dance as a sport, and if you look at dance as also as an athlete's body, dancers also have an athletic body. We're doing the exact same things that football players do. We're doing the exact same things that soccer players do. And that was really cool to get that from him. He also just instilled a sense of discipline in my life. I mean, when it comes to professional work, it's like like I said, I still hear him every day. Like if I had to be on set at 6:30 in the morning in LA, and if that required me to leave and get up, or to get up at like 4 in the morning, so I was on time on set at 6:30, at 6:25 or 6:20, to be early is to be on time, as Mr. Robinson would always say, then that's what I would do. I mean, he really pushed me to become the best that I could be, and he knew what he was doing. I don't think that, to me, he was like my Phil Jackson. If I was Michael Jordan, like he knew how to push the right buttons. He knew when to say the right things. He knew when to let me grow. He knew when he needed to step in. And I wouldn't, again, that's someone that I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for him at SCPA.
Man of amazing influence. Pretty incredible. So kind of moving on from SCPA, you are also not only focused on dance and all the extracurricular activities you have with the outside dance groups. I believe you're still dancing on hip hop teams during high school, I think until like your senior year. You have this looming idea of going to college. And just if you can talk about and share with the audience that decision to commit on a whole other level in terms of higher education and pursuing dance? And then if you can share about, if you would like, where and what exactly you focused on.
Look, college is 4 years. You get in, you get out. You do the 4 years and you're done. After that, once you get that college degree, you got the college degree. You don't have to worry about doing it again. People always ask me, like, should I just, people that are in high school and that are amazing talents and they're amazing singers, amazing dancers. I mean, yes, like, if you look at it from a sports sense, if you're an amazing basketball player in high school, and what's the point of you going to college? You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of it if you're Kobe Bryant and you are the best at what you do at high school? What's the point of you going to college when you could easily just go to the NBA and start making money doing what you're good at? Yes, I get that. At the same time, dance singers, not all of us are like that. It's very hard for that to happen. Like, if I wanted to get my college degree, because getting my college degree, and maybe I would love to get my master's at one point, but getting my degree was just very important to me because I knew that my body is not going to last. I'm not going to be able to do what I'm doing. God, I hope I can do what I'm doing for the next 8 to 10 years. But I know that after that, like, my body's going to start not wanting to do that anymore. And what's going to help me later in life is having a college degree, to have that sense of security in that. Like, yes, maybe a college degree doesn't mean that much at this moment right now. Like, there's a lot of people with the college degree and with the right credentials to get really good jobs, but they can't get them because the market's just crazy. But you know what? I have a college degree, and I remember teaching at a studio once, and they told me, like, you don't have your college degree, and you don't have this qualification. You have this, but so I'm going to start you with $10 an hour teaching a dance class. But now, if I was to go back to that place and start teaching again, I'd be like, look, I have my college degree. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. I've worked with this person. I've worked with this person, and I've also done that. My rate is not going to be $10 an hour anymore.
Yeah.
I just think that there's so much value in having the college degree and also just going and getting it done. You know what I mean? Like, I'm proud that you went and did that, because it's once you, like, you know what I mean? Like, once you get it,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
I remember being on set doing one thing and someone was studying for something during our, like, lunch break. And I was like, oh, nice. How's it going? He's like, yeah, it's fine. He's like, I wish I had just done this earlier.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, I get that. Like, the older you get, like, it gets harder. You get more, there's more things that you have to do. But, like, right after high school, it's like, just go get it done. I went to to college at 17. I graduated, I was 21. And I was like, I still have all this time to do all this other stuff. This is great. So, yeah, that's my feelings on college. I don't know if I answered your question, but.
No, yeah, no, that was great. Well, I mean, just now kind of getting into the nitty gritty a little more. So, for those of you that don't know, I think a big thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know the two things that, and we've talked about this many times before, way prior to this, but I know that you were kind of deciding between two schools, and the ones that I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, were UCLA and I think it was UArts in Philadelphia. And I think the big thing that you were kind of contemplating, and I'm sure anyone that's tuning in right now can attest to this, whether you kind of went through this huge decision, a huge dilemma, like going to school. But I remember UArts, I think they were offering you a full ride. And I remember you had the opportunity also to go to UCLA, and that was kind of like a dream school and a little bit closer to home. And it was in LA, so it was kind of in the environment for work that you could be doing. So if you could just talk and take our audience through what that decision was like. You have like two great options. There was never a wrong choice, but just sharing how you came to that decision, and then ultimately what you ended up doing at that particular school you ended up choosing.
Listen, at that point in my life, I don't think I had gone past, I don't know, Las Vegas. That's as far east as I've ever gone at that point in my life. I don't like the East Coast is just something that I'd never experienced before. I think now, looking back on it, like, of course, like, I will never regret my decision in going to UCLA, because I loved UCLA. Like you said, it was a dream school. U of Arts, so like, yeah, they offered me like at first it was a partial scholarship, and then it got more. I was like, oh, you're gonna actually give me a full ride, and I just didn't understand that in general, and I also didn't know much about U of Arts. I
Mm.
also didn't understand the meaning of like. I think when I was leaving high school, I had in my mind that I wanted to do more commercial work.
Mm.
So if you wanted to work commercially, the place to be would be LA. And so
Mhm.
if I went to UCLA, then I'm already in the heart of everything. Uh, I mean, now my career has taken me to different places and more musical theater. And granted, I still do commercial work in LA whenever it's available, and New York whenever it's available. But I mean, at the
Mhm.
time, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to UCLA, and I can still dance and take classes in Los Angeles and get my education still too, and I'll already be there. Like that's great. So that kind of was the leading factor into me choosing UCLA. Besides the fact that it was a dream college of mine, and but also just the fact that I wanted to be in LA after I graduated. I wanted to be there, and I wanted to do commercial work.
Amazing. And now that whole, so you're at UCLA now, and talking about your mindset was you had 4 years to just get school done. And so knowing that you wanted to do commercial work and you had an agent, and I think at the time, was it still Block,
I was blocking LA for a little bit, yeah,
right?
or for a while, yeah.
At that
Sorry.
time, right? So while you're in school, what was that work-life balance in terms of being a student, full-time student, I might add, but then also knowing like what's on the horizon? Like, did you go to a lot of auditions? Did it kind of weigh on you that you weren't able to fully commit, or what was that whole like thing like?
Uh, LA is. Uh, I was actually okay with my decisions at UCLA in terms of auditioning and not auditioning for things. I found that it was auditions in the first place weren't really happening that often as much anyways when you're in LA. It depends. I mean, like like I lived in LA for a very long time, so I have a very distinct, I don't know, I guess feeling on the industry there.
Yeah.
Uh, but I very much just like for the 4 years that I was there, I remember just like I'm just gonna do school. Like I'm just gonna do school. If an audition comes that I really want to go to and I really feel like I need to be at, then I will go and I will be there. And I don't regret any of my decisions. But luckily for me, like once I got out of UCLA, like there were of course still auditions happening, and it was amazing for me. My last, my like once I graduated from UCLA, so it was. I'm very happy that I really just leaned in on getting the school done.
Amazing. And just to kind of go backtrack a little bit before we continue with the post grad life, just talking about when you were, I think it was when you might have been in early high school or middle school, was when you guys got the studio built at the house. So I think just talking about that commitment, both from your family side, like your parents' side, but then also what did that do for you in terms of like the work ethic, in terms of having that resource readily available, and just your love for dance? Like when you first got that studio and like having it at your house, and like it's a beautiful studio, I might add. Just talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a game changer. I mean, imagine like I don't know, like just like imagine how crazy it would have been for like Kobe Bryant to have a basketball court in his house at
Yeah.
the age when he was, you know what I mean? Like rather than having to go to wake up, I'm sure there was a park nearby or any basketball player, but like just
Yeah.
imagine waking up and being like, well, there's a dance studio. I guess I can just go in my dance studio and stretch. Like I don't look at it as pressure, but it was like I have no reason not to be good. Like I have a dance studio. Like I have no reason not to be at the top of my game. I have no reason not to be in there trying to learn new things. I have no reason to not have people over to rehearse and try and come up with choreography or try and learn a new style of dance or just be in there all the time. Like it's my parents were just like, we have the studio, but like, and you should utilize it and use it and have your friends over and have them dance, which you've come over and dance all the time. And my mom goes in there now and just walks around. She just walks alone and just hangs out and talks to herself in the dance studio. But no, I don't think there's. I mean, I think that having the studio, there's just like no. there's no reason if you have that, you shouldn't be at the top of your game or using it and utilizing it to better yourself. We're in quarantine right now, so there's no reason why I shouldn't be spending less than 2 hours in there. Like I'm in there so much. Like I have no reason not to be in there. So
Yeah.
even then, it's more important having it now during this crazy time.
Absolutely, especially with all the closures and all the things going on. Absolutely, it's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's awesome. Okay, so just kind of getting back to where we left off with UCLA. So you finished school, and you're a little bit on the younger side. Your birthday's in November, so you are 21 when you graduate. And so going to that first job, if I remember correctly, it was a Disney cruise, and talking about I mean, that's a quick turnaround, going from being in one place for 4 years and putting your heart and soul, and then now basically being on a traveling show. And just talking a little bit about that first experience.
Yeah, it was a group called it's a company called Feld Entertainment, and it's called Disney Live, so they're like a sister branch to Disney. They're not necessarily part of the Disney company, but they're the same people that have the Barnum and Bailey Circus, or now their big thing is they have the Sesame Street live show. They don't really have the Disney stuff anymore, at least to my knowledge. So correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I went to this audition. It was like a random audition, and then my agents were great. I love having agents. I love having them. They get you into rooms. I love my agents now, MSA. They're the best in New York. I love them so much. At the time when I was with my other agency, Block, it was, like I said, it's hard. It was hard for auditions to happen. It's hard. So you find means of finding out when auditions are happening. And I found this one audition on a website called Answers for Dancers, and I just went, and it's for Disney Live. And a couple months later, they called me and were like, hey, so we have this track that opened up, and you would be traveling through Europe, Spain, Italy, Turkey, France. And then I talked on for an hour with Jessica Ferris, I think is her last name. Oh my gosh. But she pretty much just told me all the ins and outs of everything. And yeah, it was like, for someone that just graduated from college and didn't really know what the hell to do next, and like it's kind of hard in LA with auditions, and you're just working at your survival job. Yeah, it was great. I went to Spain, I went to Italy, went to Turkey. Something happened with our visas, so we weren't able to go to France. So we ended our tour in Turkey, but it wasn't always the greatest. We did 16 show weeks sometimes 3 shows in a day.
Yeah.
And at that time, like, you don't really understand unions. You don't understand what's going on and the things that they can make you do. I mean, it's one thing when I'd be working on TV and it's like, all right, we have this, they're going to lunch now, and like everything. So like, even doing TV the union isn't as strict as it is when you're working on a theater job. Like when you're working in theater in an equity contract, they're like 5-minute break. And then it's like, it's so important that these things happen with the union. But like when you're working on a non-union job, it's a little crazy. 16 show weeks, like I said. You're sleeping on a bus sometimes, and then you wake up, and then you get to the next stop, and then you like go straight to the venue, and then you do a show there, and then it's like, all right, get back on the bus and sleep on this bus, and then we're gonna do 2 shows the next day. It was crazy. It was a lot, and I'm happy. I think everyone should experience doing a contract like that, but at the same time, I will never. God, the experience of traveling and going to places that I had never thought I'd be able to go to was pretty amazing. Like going to Rome, going to like to Spain, and like just experiencing the culture and meeting a whole bunch of people and traveling like that. Like it was fun. Like it was cool. I will never forget just like eating spaghetti in front of the Vatican. Like where else is that ever going to happen? It was pretty amazing. And so it was just cool to finally, I grew up going to college. I like, in a sense, what I'm saying is I grew up a lot when I went to college, and everyone does. But I think like I grew up a lot, learning a lot about myself by being on the road, traveling to all these different countries. You just learn a lot about yourself, especially doing a job that you love, but is also really hard. You just learn a lot about yourself.
Absolutely. And you kind of touched a little bit on it in terms of when the visa expired that you guys ultimately had to come back. And so I think something that doesn't get enough attention is the difficulty that an artist faces in between work. And so if you can just speak a little bit about, and I don't remember how long the layover was for you, but just talking about, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay inspired? How do you stay, just pushing through? Like, we have some of the toughest skin, in terms of people that I know being artists. And so how did you push through, come back and living, where life is literally at your fingertips to, having to come back and having to, okay, kind of realign and figure things out? Like, what was that transition like?
Yeah. I mean, before I left for that contract, like I was doing Shake It Up on Disney Channel. Like every week they would call and be like, "Hey, we need you on set," and that was great. That was fun. Very grateful that I made that connection with Rosario and Christina Grady, and I was just happy to just be. I was happy to be on set. I was happy to be doing that job. It was so much fun. And then I got this thing, and then we go do this contract, and it's crazy. It's fun. It's hard. And then they tell us that our contract's getting cut short. So that was the first time where it was like, okay, well, what exactly is it that I'm going to do now? What do you do? Like, this is like the first real world thing of like what you can't. It's not like you just go back to your 9-to-5 job and just like, all right, cool, let's just do that again. It's like, no, it's like that's you're an artist. It's different. You have to just figure it out. And so, I mean, you again just going back to like auditioning, looking about on audition websites, what auditions are happening. And I luckily I went to one audition when I got back, and then 2 years later it paid off.
No, absolutely. And I think just to, for those of you that are tuning in or just listening or just meeting Nico for the first time, I think something incredible that stood out to me, and we've known each other for, God knows how long, but is going the extra mile and being absolutely committed to doing what you love. And so I remember a lot of the things you made sacrifices. I mean, I remember you doing bar. For those of you who don't know, it's an exercise in ballet, and you would always do that for yourself every morning. Talking about eating like what you needed, and you weren't eating lavishly before you made it. Like, you were doing like what was ever necessary. And what I mean by that is just, eating, just to make sure that you weren't hungry. And it was those little things that really just showed to me just like how great you were in terms of just that resilience, but also like, to accompany that talent. So thank you for like sharing that transition. I know as an artist, it's not easy. So thank you for sharing that. Kind of touching up on something that just kind of popped in, but I think part of that resilience comes from a lot of things that are instilled in us at a young age. And if you don't mind, this is actually something that we share in common. We share a lot of things in common, but this is something that we share in common. Talking a little bit about, if you can, or if you like, Kumon, and talking about what that instilled in you in terms of a work ethic, in terms of inspiration, seeing others working. And for those of you who don't know, Kumon is a math and reading writing program, and you can be looked at as something that like, oh, I don't have the skills, or I'm not as good, or it can be looked at something as that enhances you. And so we both have experience in that, and it's paid off greatly. And if you can just share a little bit about just, being humbled a little bit, but what that's ultimately done for you.
Oh, I didn't think I was going to talk about Kumon today. I went for math because I remember I got like, I don't remember, I was in 7th grade and I got like a C or a D on a math test. And
7th grade and 7th grade?
Yeah.
It happened in 8th grade for me. And that's so funny.
It was like 7th grade or something. Maybe 8th grade. I don't remember, but it was like the house burnt down. And I was there, and I was like, oh my god. Anyway, so then they put me in Clippers with Kumon, and I did Kumon until like my last year of high school, and I was like driving myself to Kumon, and I was like sitting at tables with these like kindergarten kids. And like I went from SEPA. I mean, I would go from SEPA and be like, my girlfriend at SEP, I felt like I was like the best dancer at high school at the school. I was like, man, I'm so cool. Like I got into UCLA, and then like having to go to Kumon with like these little kids. But like it was, I mean, yeah, it is humbling, but it's great though. Like man, like if you give me a multiplication table, like I could solve that. I could solve that thing in like 30 seconds. Like that's just what it's like. That it's again, that's that thing of like Mr. Robinson, just like discipline and like having to do something every day and like doing Kumon every day. Like you had to do your own you had to do homework from school, but then it's like, all right, here we go. I got to do and spend another, I don't know, however long on this Kumon packet.
Who was your teacher? Who was the lead? I don't know if we had the same person. I had Sukcha Arakaki. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, I remember him, Arakaki, and I forget the other girl's name. I forget the other one's name. Or yeah, it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it back though. Kumon was great. You guys should all put your kids in Kumon if you're parents, and if you want them to get better at reading and math, put them in Kumon.
No, absolutely. I mean, it is.
I'm laughing, but like I'm serious. Yeah. I didn't think I was going to be talking about Kumon today. I thought you were going to be like, oh yeah, we're only children. Like that's something we have in common. No, Kumon.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like feeling at that time you're like, oh yeah, I'm smart, I'm killing the game, and like you said, you feel on top of the world, and then you look over to the table next to you when you're at Kumon and there's a third grader that's doing calculus and you're like a junior in high school and you're like, what's happening? No, it's honestly, I think just in all seriousness, you guys, it's the world is so fast and we expect results so quickly, and I think one of the things that I really appreciate about Nico and the era that you come from, and that I like to believe that I come from as well, is that just understanding patience and a work ethic, and just understanding that good things come in time. And so that's definitely one of the things, the biggest takeaways for sure that I know we're taking away from Kumon.
Well, yeah, I just think that it's just funny to bring that up, and like I don't mean to get on my old man high horse, but I'm like, whenever like these, I mean, I love that dance has become so mainstream, and people want to use it as an outlet to release, like as another outlet for their personal, like to get like a good workout in or whatever. But it's interesting to me because the people that think that dance is something that's just very easy, and that oh my gosh, if I make this, I just have to get viral. I have to make one video on YouTube and then I get viral. I have to do this TikTok dance and then like people think I'm a good dancer. Yes, sure, whatever. But like, you've worked hard. You've taken all these dance classes. The thing that people don't know nowadays is that like people like Keone, Mari, people like, I don't know, people that we look up to, Robert Fairchild, people on Broadway, we put hours in. We spent a lot of money dancing on our craft. Like things weren't just handed to us. Things weren't just like people didn't see like, friggin' the Jabberwockies, Rainin, all those dudes. Those dudes spent hours in the studio. You think they just woke up one day and they were like, we're gonna put on a mask and we're gonna go on TV and just hit some beats? No, those dudes worked hard. Yeah. Those dudes took class. Those dudes trained every day. Yeah. Barishnikov, any ballet dancer, they put their hours in. Any tap dancer, anybody, like, you have to people don't understand that you don't get where you're at without the hard work, without the patience. You know what I mean? Yeah. Keone didn't just become a really good choreographer out of nowhere. Yeah. The Kinja dudes, none of those dudes were like, just woke up one day and were like, all right, yeah, same thing. We're gonna just come together. Whatever. Those dudes work hard. They train hard. They took classes. They put in the time and effort. I put in so much time and so much effort and so much literal blood sweat. You put in literal blood sweat and tears into getting to where we're at dance wise, where we're at in our careers. And that's the one thing that I wish that more people understood and just wouldn't get so, if you really want to take it seriously, if you want to take dance, you want to take the industry or anything as serious as if you want to make it, you can't get discouraged by by something bad happening. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta just take the lumps when they come, because that's just how it is. You have to be patient, and and maybe you gotta be a little lucky too. very lucky in my career. So anyway, sorry, I just kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, I love that, and I think that's extremely important. And even for you, you started dancing, and you were, being from San Diego and commuting to LA during auditions, like when you were still at SCPA, and even probably before that, how you would drive up with your parents 3 hours one way for a 5-minute audition, and that buildup of being told no 1,000 times before you even were considered a yes. And so it's incredible how that mental makeup has really shaped you to have such a good head on your shoulders and to thrive in this business. Because I feel like so many talented people, but a lot of the times you can be, not there mentally, and that can really take away. So that's really important. It's a really great point. So just thank you for sharing that. So kind of tying it back to UCLA and that post-grad life, and just to kind of pass over and to just kind of go through your next stage in life, we're going to go right into, real quick, we're going to go into New York first. And I want to talk about being in New York and transitioning to New York. You talked about initially the furthest east you'd ever been was at the time, was in Vegas. And so now you actually find yourself on the East Coast and being pretty damn good and being successful on Broadway. And so if you can just share with us just, some of the things that the most significant things you've learned being in New York, what the city has taught you, but also the things that you're able to do, and the projects you're able to work on.
Well, I was a newsie, Kevin. I don't know if anybody knows. I'm just kidding. No, I went to New York for like a week, and I stayed on a friend's couch, my friend Jerry McQueen. I went there once just to visit, travel, and I went, and that was my first time in New York, and I was there for 6 days, and I got a taste of it. And then I went back to New York. So after can I just do this whole thing right now? Is that cool? Can I just do this whole thing?
Do it.
Great. Once I got back from that European tour, I went to a Newsies audition in LA, and then I auditioned, and it was with Lou Castro, who's the associate choreographer, and Justin Huff, who used to work for Telsey Company. And I was like, oh my God, they kind of love me a lot. I think I'm gonna be on Broadway. Let's get it. Alex Wong had just left the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's Asian. Hello. And I was like, oh my gosh, having me do everything that he does in the show, blah, blah. And then I called Jeremy McQueen after the audition. I was like, I just slayed this audition. Like, am I gonna be on Broadway? No, I was like, what's going on? Like, I don't live in New York. You audition people, Broadway's a lot of equity shows are required to audition every 6 months, and so they do this tour and they travel everywhere and they audition places. And so I auditioned in LA, but then I called my friend Jeremy in New York, and he's like, yeah, they already hired somebody for that track. Like, they already hired the replacement. I was like, all right, cool. All right, well, back to my life back in LA. So then I auditioned. So then, like, 2 years later, they were like, I got an email from Telsey, and they were like, hey, like, we would like for you to come in and audition for Newsies, and for the tour. And I was like, huh, yes. Also, like, I was at the point where I was like, being in LA for 2 years, and it's like soul sucking sometimes, and just like not audition. And it's just like, at that point I was like, hey, I'm ready to, I think at that point it was like, I was ready to move home back to San Diego and restart and figure out what it was I'm going to do with my life. But then I was like, you know what, let's just put everything, people are like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I was like, I'm going to put all my eggs in this one basket, and I'm going to fly to New York, and I'm going to sleep on Jeremy McQueen's couch again, and I'm going to try and get this job. I'm going to try and get this coin, okay? So flew to New York, again, stayed on Jeremy McQueen's couch, and that was my first New York audition. And talk about, like, getting thrown into the fire. It's like, my first audition ever in New York was Newsies. Like, that was, like, insane. And then, like, the audition in itself was, like, crazy, because it's like all the top boys from everywhere were at this audition. And then not only that, like, yeah, the head of Disney Theatricals, Thomas Schumacher there, you have the director, you have the choreographer, Christopher Catelli, Jeff Calhoun, whom I was like, Christopher Catelli is someone that he won the Tony for choreographing Newsies. And I was like, he was in the room, and I was like, this is like, oh my God, that's like Jerome Robbins to me right now, like this choreographer here. And then it was like, who was it? I think no, Jack Feldman was there, the guy who wrote all the lyrics for all your favorite Disney movies, like the guy that wrote the Goofy movie. He was in the room. Like, it was just insane. It was just one of the craziest things. And auditioning for that, being in New York in general, like, it's a whole different thing. Like, you don't drive to audition in New York. You like get on the subway. You got to get on the subway. Depending on where you're at, you got to get on there at a certain time so you don't late the audition. And then you get in an elevator with 20 million other people going to this one audition. And it's like, New York auditions are so much more different than commercial LA auditions, but it was such a fun experience. And I ended up just getting that job, which was amazing for me because, I was a national tour and I traveled everywhere. But yeah, so anyways, that was like I've had like tastes of living in New York. But then finally when I moved to New York to like try to do the whole Broadway thing, it was cold. I mean, I didn't have a proper winter jacket. I didn't get it. I was like, I'll just layer. This is dumb. Like, I'll just wake up and layer. Like, that's stupid. You're so dumb. Get a winter jacket. Get some nice winter boots. Like, get some actual boots so you don't fall on your butt. And so your feet don't get wet by the snow. But like, no, New York was like crazy, man. Like, New York is just like, it's like it's like, I don't even know. It's like, it's just like, it's literally, I don't even think of it as like a real place to me. It's like just like this crazy like world that like it doesn't sleep. It literally doesn't sleep, and it's so many people packed into one little place. And sometimes you'll audition and there's like 800 people at one audition again. But it's just different. It's just a whole different beast, and it's so much fun. And like, I was very lucky when I got my first Broadway contract. Like, it takes people a very long time to book Broadway. Like, people will be there for 10 years and still won't book the first Broadway contract. I mean, like, I got very lucky. I think it took me a year and a half, which was, all you needed was just like, I remember when I first got there, I was like, I was in Newsie. I was on this, and I know this person. I know that person. No, it doesn't matter. And so like, it finally took like, just once I got my first like New York job, which was like this like workshop of this like circus show. And then I got another contract doing In the Heights at some regional theater. And then I got another contract. I booked another thing working with one of my favorite choreographers, Camille Brown. And then I got this one job. And then I got In the Heights at the Kennedy Center with like Vanessa Hudgens and Anthony Ramos and Ina Spinoza, working with those people. And then all of a sudden it was like, and then I was like, oh, cool. I just took that one yes. And then once you get that one yes, you kind of get your name out, and then people kind of know who you are. And then I was very lucky to meet Rusty Mowry and the great Jerry Mitchell. And he cast me in my first Broadway show, Pretty Woman. And ever since then, it's just been like, it's been a dream to be a part of that. It's been cool. It's been great. It's been humbling. It's been super humbling. Yeah. It's crazy. But like, yeah, I mean, I honestly was like, Broadway was always a dream of mine, but like never sure if it would actually happen. So the fact that it actually happened is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, I didn't want to gloss over that, but for those of you guys that don't know, I did want to actually set some time aside for you to specifically talk about Newsies, being a, predominantly male cast and dance heavy. And you talked about that. And I think just, if you can just shed some light and share the audience a little bit about what it's like and how that kind of changed you and ultimately prepared you for work after Newsies, how rigorous that was, what it was like working with like a PT or a doctor like on set. I know you sustained a couple of injuries, and just the network, the friendships, the opportunities that show gave you. If you can just speak a little bit about Newsies.
Well, I was in Newsie. I'm kidding. I mean, it was quite a trip. It was quite the experience. I just think that job in general, like, we talk about jobs preparing you for the next job, like that job that I did in Europe, physically and mentally really prepared me for what I was going to be doing on tour. I mean, like I said, I was doing 16 show weeks. Granted, when I got to Newsies, I was doing only 8 shows a week, but like when you're doing a show like Newsies on the road, it's like you feel like you're doing 16 show weeks. It's hard. It was very taxing on the body. It was hard on the body. I mean, if for any of us on that tour that thought like you were never going to call out, I don't think any of us thought that we were never going to call out of a show, call out or like be sick or injured. Like if somebody ever thought that they were going to walk away from that show and not have called out because you weren't feeling great, like you're crazy. But no, like Newsies was so much fun. Like Newsies was the trip. That was like the one thing where it's like where I bowed and I was like, yeah, everything I've ever worked on in my life, like that's all, like everything I was all put to showcase in that 2.5 hours that I was on stage. It was like, I just learned so much. I've made some really good connections with some really awesome people. We still all have our Newsie group chat and we all still talk to each other. We all still make sure everyone's doing fine. We're all proud of each other when we're all doing other jobs. I mean, like, it's like, it's not crazy to see that like a lot of us that were on Newsies have become dance captains for Broadway shows, because just the fact that Newsies in itself is a dance heavy show, like it just happens, you know. That, I mean, yes, injuries happen. I spent a lot of time in PT. I have some really good friends that were PTs from there. And I learned a lot about the human body. I learned a lot how to recover and how to be, and again, patience when like having to just recover from an injury. I learned how to take care of my body properly, even though like sometimes I right now I'm like, I'll be at home pushing my body. I know I shouldn't be, but I'm like, whatever, it's quarantine. What am I doing? Like, whatever, it's fine. but no, like I've learned a lot of like how to just do that and how important rest was and how important it is. What you put into your body will actually like it really, I don't know. It, like, if I eat crappy the day before a show or the night before a show, I'll really feel it the next day. Like, maybe I shouldn't have had that Domino's last night. No, like, yeah, Newsies is great. Newsies was great, man. I had a lot of fun, and it really did prepare me. Maybe it got me a lot of connections in it, and I ended up getting a lot of people to start following me, and I've met a lot of great people because of it.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I did watch it live with a couple of our friends from UCLA in LA, and that was incredible. And then I watched it on Netflix again because it went on Netflix, and the show was incredible. But nothing like seeing it live and seeing the amazing dancing and the technique as well. I think that's something that doesn't get shine enough light on in terms of, like, I feel like males may seem as just more athletic, but definitely just the degree of difficulty and the things you guys were doing was just like super awesome and really awe-inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. I did kind of touched up a little bit about it being in quarantine. And I think now in that transition of trying to figure out, okay, a lot of things are on a standstill. What has it like been for you? What's your outlook been in terms of just like preparing for the next thing? I know you have the studio at home, so you have a wonderful resource at your fingertips, but what specifically are you doing personally that you can share with the audience and just like getting ready for the next thing?
We honestly, like, it's crazy. Like, you don't know when this is all gonna end. You know what I mean? I'm a believer that like things shouldn't reopen until it's actually safe enough. And I already know that like when it does open up, things aren't gonna be the same. Having 1,200 people in a theater again and like sitting close to each other like that. I mean, I'm sure it'll get back to that at some point, but maybe.
Yeah.
But it's gonna take a while. I'm just trying to just prepare myself for whatever it is I think is gonna come next for me. Yes, I've been like doing these things where I've been learning dances just to keep my brain going, just to keep doing that, just to keep dancing and just to keep that muscle going in my head, and like just trying to continuously work on my technique. And like I sing every day, I dance every day, and I think I'm very grateful to be at a point in my career where I think people still want to work with me. And I think that there still is an opportunity for me to work once this is all done. I mean, I had some work things that I was supposed to be working on right now. Like, what would I be doing right now? Like, I would be working, no. Oh, wait, no, my contract, I was supposed to be doing something, and then, but anyways, I've had a lot of jobs that were put on hold because of coronavirus.
Yeah.
and a lot of opportunities, but I just am staying ready, because you never know when the next job is going to happen. You never know when it's going to happen, what it's going to be. So right now it's just mainly just staying focused and staying humble and staying positive, because it's easy to just get super discouraged and whatever. I mean, I've thought about, oh, Nico, let's get our teaching credential and let's do this. But I know that deep down in my heart, it wouldn't be right for me to do that, because I know that I still want to perform. And I know that I still want to work professionally, like in that sense. It would be a shame to get my teacher credential, start working somewhere teaching, and then if a job was to come up in New York, then I'd be like, sorry, I can't do it anymore. I've right now yes, I'm trying to be very like, I'm trying to be real with myself and try and just be like, maybe it won't ever happen again. But like, you know what, like, I trust in myself, and I know that I've set up myself to be in situations where I know that I'll be able to work again. I hope in the industry again when this is all over. But just staying ready, everyone, stay ready.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's super important. And I think just, I would love to just take it back for whoever's tuning in that, was just me and Nico for the first time. I would love for you to share, if you were to say or share anything that you've learned through life, through the workspaces you've been involved in, the different spaces or environments in general that you've been in, especially in the industry that you're in and currently thriving in. What would you say, to your 13 or 14-year-old self, or your younger self, or someone out there that's listening that either wants to get into the industry or just wants to get into a industry or a profession? You've spoke and you've been the quintessential example of work ethic and patience and commitment and repetition. And so if you can just share with all the rich experience that you have, what would you share to that, young viewer, young person tuning into this, hearing you speak of your narrative?
Just a couple things: to not get discouraged, even though it's easy to get discouraged. It's gonna happen, but like, so what? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't get that job, so what? There'll be another one. There'll be another audition. There'll be another interview. There'll be another this. There'll be another that. Just to also just just to be a good person. I don't think that's asking a lot of people, but like, kind of like, check your ego at the door, no matter where it is that you're working, no matter where it is that you're at, whether it's like you are working on set, you're working on a Broadway show, or you're just going into your new office job for the first time, and like, just check your ego at the door. Like, nobody wants to. You think about it this way, like, if you're putting a show together, you're gonna be with these people for the next however long that this whole process is working. You don't want to work with someone that's not a good person, or that's hard to work with. You know what I mean? You don't want to work with someone that makes it very difficult for you. So I always look at myself as just like, just to stay humble, and just to always just want to be learning, and always want to be getting better, and just to be a good person. That's pretty much what it gets down to. It's just be a good person, be a good listener, and just be someone that people want to work with. Because I don't think, like, if I was putting together something, I'd be like, yeah, I would work with Kevin, because he gets my nerves sometimes, but like, yeah, I don't mind being around Kevin for 12 hours a day if I need to be with that person. I don't mind seeing him every day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind working with such and such person because, oh, this person provides this, like, but if you're that person that's like, oh, he or she is just so difficult, or he or she is just like, they don't follow deadlines. They don't come back with this. Like, you don't want to be that person. So for me, it's just like, just be a good person, be on top of your game, and never stop learning. Never think you're too good for something. Never think that you're just all high mighty, because there's always gonna be someone that's better than you. There's always gonna be someone younger that's cuter than you. That's always gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like, I was the cute little Asian boy dancer, and then Kevin came around. Oh. God. Then I just had to like be good at dance. Like I couldn't just be like that. I couldn't just be cute. I had to be actually good.
Yeah.
No, but no, that's my thing. Is like I would tell myself, I would tell any kid that wants to do anything in life is to, and like the thing, I think my advice just goes for more than just dance wise. I think it goes to regular life in general. Just continue to just want to keep learning, stay humble, and just be a good person. Be someone that people want to work with. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. If you're a good person, then that'll come out. Yeah, I'd rather be someone that like puts a smile on someone's face and be someone that like makes them feel a certain way, make them feel bad. I'd rather just be the person that's like, oh God, Nico made me feel good today. He didn't make me feel crappy today. He made me feel good. So that was really nice. So yeah, that's my advice to someone or my younger self.
Love that. I appreciate that. And just to kind of wrap this up, it's incredible what dance, the performing arts, has done for us. I don't know if you remember, but we actually met at a Pink audition in LA, and our family started talking and we started talking, and then we both found out we're from San Diego, and then we found out that you were already at SCPA, and so that's kind of what was a big inspiration for me to go to SCPA. My mom got me there.
I don't remember. It was a Pink audition. I don't remember that.
I remember it. Yeah. And so it's just incredible, like what this.
What music video was it?
I don't remember. I really don't remember. But yeah, it's incredible to see like what this has done for you, this life that you've created for yourself. I mean, you've gone from the little Asian kid in the supermarket, the Jay-Z music video. I forgot what song that was. Which song was that?
H to the
Izzo. Wow. And to basically being on Newsies, and then to eventually landing on Broadway and being on Pretty Woman and being in the Heights, sitting in the Heights and all that stuff. And so it's incredible to see what you've done with your journey, Nico. And I'm super proud to call you one of my closest friends and like a big brother to me. So again, just thank you for giving us your time today and sharing your awesome story. Yeah, and just thank you guys for tuning in to the Of Like Minds video podcast episode 5. Nico, we're gonna stay on. We're gonna kick it for a bit, but until next time, you guys, we will catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.